The first time Talia Monroe kissed Han Ji-won, she wasn't thinking about consequences. She wasn't thinking about dignity. She wasn't thinking about tomorrow. She was thinking about survival. 3 hours earlier, she had still believed she was going to marry Malcolm Reed. Not immediately, not next month, but someday. That quiet someday people build inside themselves when they love someone long enough. The kind of someday made from sacrifices nobody sees. The kind built from skipped opportunities, canceled plans, unpaid emotional labor, and countless moments of choosing someone else before choosing yourself. Talia had spent 4 years building that someday. 4 years helping Malcolm chase his dreams. 4 years proofreading business proposals at midnight. 4 years listening to his frustrations. 4 years believing that loyalty meant something. And now she stood hidden behind a service corridor wall inside the Leora Seoul Grand Hotel, listening to her entire future collapse in less than 30 seconds. "I'll announce the engagement tonight." Malcolm's voice drifted through the partially open door. Talia froze. The folder in her hand slipped slightly. A female voice answered. Soft, elegant, confident. Evelyn March, the daughter of billionaire investor Charles March. The woman Malcolm had insisted was just business. "You think she'll make trouble?" Evelyn asked. Malcolm laughed, actually laughed. Talia felt her stomach twist. "No," word came easily, cruelly. "No, Talia isn't like that." Silence. Then Evelyn asked the question that changed everything. "Did you ever love her?" Talia stopped breathing. Inside the room, Malcolm took a moment before answering, not because he was emotional, not because he was conflicted, because he was calculating. Then he said it. "I cared about her." The words hit like ice water. "I needed her at the time." Talia's fingers tightened around the folder. Needed. Past tense, needed, not loved, not cherished, needed, like a stepping stone, like temporary furniture, like something useful until something better arrived. Evelyn laughed softly. "And now?" Malcolm adjusted something, probably his expensive watch. Talia knew all his habits, every single one. "Now I'm thinking about the future, a future without her, a future she had unknowingly helped build." The room grew quiet, then Malcolm spoke again, his voice lower this time. "Let's be honest." A pause. "I'm not marrying struggle." Talia felt something inside her crack, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to change the shape of her heart forever. The folder slipped from her hands, papers scattered across the floor. Inside the room, movement stopped. Talia didn't wait, she turned and walked, not ran. Walked because some pain is too heavy for running. She crossed the hotel corridor blindly, past guests, past staff, past mirrors she refused to look into. Her vision blurred, the tears refused to fall. Some heartbreaks are too shocked for tears. Her phone vibrated. Malcolm calling. She stared at the screen, then declined it, immediately. A second later another call appeared. Declined, again. The phone finally stopped, for a few seconds, then a text appeared. "Malcolm. You heard that?" Talia stared. No apology, no explanation, no regret, just that. "You heard that?" As though the problem wasn't what he said. The problem was that she had heard it. A bitter laugh escaped her. The first tear finally slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away immediately. Across the corridor, the ballroom doors opened. Music spilled outward. Laughter followed. The engagement gala, the event Malcolm had invited her to. The event where he planned to publicly replace her. Without warning, without mercy, without respect, Talia closed her eyes. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She chose herself. She walked into the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers glowed above hundreds of guests. Luxury wrapped itself around every corner of the room. Gold light reflected against marble floors. Waiters moved elegantly through the crowd. Near the center stood Malcolm, perfect, confident, victorious. Beside him stood Evelyn, beautiful, expensive, chosen. Talia felt her chest tighten. Then Malcolm saw her. His smile vanished for half a second, she noticed. Good. For the first time that evening, she wanted him uncomfortable. He immediately excused himself and began walking toward her. Fast, too fast, Talia. His voice dropped low when he reached her. "Can we talk?" She looked at him calmly. "You already talked." "This isn't the place." "Interesting." She smiled without warmth. "Because apparently it was the place to replace me." Malcolm glanced around nervously. A few guests had started watching. "Don't do this." The words were almost a warning. Talia stared at him. 4 years, and this was the face she got. Guilt, not sorrow. Fear of embarrassment, fear of losing image, fear of consequences. She suddenly felt exhausted, deeply exhausted. "Relax, Malcolm." Her voice softened. "You already won." Something about that answer unsettled him. Before he could respond, a voice echoed across the ballroom microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen." Charles March stood on the stage smiling broadly. The room quieted instantly. Malcolm looked relieved, saved by timing. Everyone turned toward the stage. Evelyn joined Malcolm near the front. Talia remained alone near the edge of the ballroom, invisible again, exactly where she had always been. Charles lifted a champagne glass. "Tonight we celebrate not only business success but a beautiful union." Applause erupted. Talia kept her face expressionless. "My future son-in-law, Malcolm Reed." More applause. Malcolm smiled proudly. "And my daughter, Evelyn." Evelyn waved gracefully. More applause. Then Charles laughed. Love is a wonderful thing. Talia almost left. Almost. Then she heard someone nearby whisper. Isn't that Malcolm's old girlfriend? Another woman answered. Poor thing. The words stabbed harder than they should have. Poor thing. Not Talia. Not a woman. Not a person. Just poor thing. A cautionary tale. She suddenly couldn't breathe. The ballroom felt smaller, hotter, louder. She turned toward the exit and collided directly into someone. The impact wasn't hard, but it was enough. A glass tilted. Strong fingers caught it before it fell. Silence. Talia looked up. The man standing before her was impossibly composed. Tall, broad shoulders beneath a black tailored suit, sharp jawline, dark intelligent eyes. The kind of eyes that noticed everything and revealed nothing. For a moment neither moved, neither spoke. Around them the ballroom continued. Yet somehow everything felt distant, quiet, focused. He glanced at the tears she had unsuccessfully hidden, then at Malcolm across the room, then back at her. The observation took less than 2 seconds, yet somehow she felt understood. Not pitied, understood. It startled her. Sorry, she said softly. You weren't watching where you were going. His voice was calm, deep, unhurried. She blinked, then unexpectedly laughed. A real laugh, tiny, disbelieving. You're right. Something flickered behind his eyes, interest perhaps. Then he extended a napkin toward her. Your mascara. Talia immediately touched beneath her eye, embarrassed. He looked away first, giving her privacy. That tiny gesture affected her more than it should have. Most men stared when women cried. This man pretended not to notice. Strange, respectful, dangerous. Thank you. He nodded once. No flirting, no attempt to impress her. Then someone hurried toward him, a nervous executive. Chairman Han. Talia froze. Chairman Han? The executive bowed slightly. The board members are waiting. Chairman Han. Han Ji-won. The billionaire whose acquisitions dominated business headlines. The man powerful enough to buy entire companies before breakfast. Talia suddenly felt ridiculous standing there with smeared mascara and a broken heart. She stepped back immediately. Sorry. I didn't realize what? He asked quietly. She opened her mouth, then stopped. Because she honestly didn't know. Didn't realize he was powerful, rich, important, different. Han Ji-won studied her for a moment, then his gaze drifted beyond her shoulder. Toward Malcolm, toward Evelyn, toward the stage. When he looked back at her, something had changed, something thoughtful, calculating, curious. Then his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his expression remained unreadable, but his eyes lifted back to hers. Interesting, he murmured. Talia frowned. What is? Before he could answer, the giant ballroom screen behind the stage suddenly flickered. Once. Twice. Then the engagement presentation disappeared entirely. A new file opened. Malcolm's face drained of color instantly. Evelyn grabbed his arm. Charles looked confused. The first image appeared, and Talia's entire world stopped moving. Because, displayed across the enormous screen for every guest to see, was a photograph she had never seen before. Malcolm kissing another woman. Not Evelyn, someone else. Ballroom exploded into shocked whispers, and across the room Han Ji-won slowly looked at her. The room did not react all at once. First came the silence, then confusion, then the whispers, then the chaos. Talia stood frozen as the massive ballroom screen continued cycling through photograph after photograph. Malcolm, another woman, different dates, different locations, different outfits. The evidence was impossible to explain away. Gasps spread through the crowd like wildfire. Someone dropped a champagne glass. Evelyn's face turned ghostly white. Charles March stared at the screen as though his brain refused to process what his eyes were seeing. Malcolm moved first. Turn it off, he shouted. His voice cracked. That alone shocked everyone. Malcolm Reed never lost control in public. The technician rushed toward the control panel, but before he could stop it, another image appeared. Then another, then another. The whispers became louder, crueler. How many women was he seeing? This was before Evelyn. No, look at the date. Oh my God. Talia could barely hear them. Blood roared inside her arms. She wasn't focused on Malcolm. She wasn't focused on Evelyn. She wasn't even focused on the scandal unfolding around her. She was focused on one impossible thought. Someone had done this. Someone powerful. Someone who knew exactly what tonight was supposed to be. The screen finally went black, but the damage was done. Charles March walked onto the stage slowly, very slowly. The expression on his face terrified everyone. He didn't yell. Powerful men rarely did. Malcolm. The single word echoed through the ballroom. Malcolm swallowed. Evelyn stepped away from him just one step. Yet, it felt like a mile. Mr. March, I can explain. Charles laughed once, coldly. Can you? Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Malcolm glanced around desperately. Looking for support, looking for an escape, looking for anything. He found none. Then his eyes landed on Talia. For a split second, anger flashed across his face. Not shame, not guilt, anger, as though somehow this disaster belonged to her. Talia felt sick. 4 years. 4 years loving this man. 4 years believing he was different. 4 years wasted. Malcolm started walking toward her. Fast, dangerous, desperate. You did this. The accusation exploded from him. The entire ballroom turned toward Talia. Her chest tightened. What? Malcolm pointed at her. You did this because you were angry. Talia stared at him. She genuinely couldn't believe what she was hearing. Are you serious? Who else would? he snapped. You heard our conversation. You wanted revenge. The words hit harder than she expected, not because they were true, because they revealed what he truly thought of her. He had loved her for 4 years. Yet the moment his life collapsed, he assumed she was capable of destroying him. Talia laughed. The sound came out broken. That's what you think of me? Malcolm opened his mouth, then closed it. Too late. The answer was already written across his face. Around them, guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Evelyn looked disgusted. Charles looked exhausted. Talia suddenly realized something. She wasn't heartbroken anymore. She was free. The realization stunned her. The pain was still there, but beneath it existed something else. Relief. Then a calm voice cut through the tension. She didn't do it. Every head turned. Han Jiwan stepped forward. The room shifted instantly. Power had entered the conversation. Not loud power. Real power. The kind that made executives stand straighter. The kind that made billionaires listen. Malcolm frowned. And how would you know? Han Jiwan's gaze settled on him. It wasn't hostile. Somehow that made it worse. Because while you were introducing your fiancé, Miss Monroe was speaking to me. Silence. Malcolm blinked. Talia blinked. Everyone blinked. Han Jiwan continued. The timeline doesn't support your accusation. Calm, simple, final. Malcolm visibly deflated, because he couldn't challenge the statement. Not from Han Jiwan, never from Han Jiwan. Charles cleared his throat. I think tonight is over. The announcement ended everything. Guests began leaving. Conversations exploded everywhere. Scandal traveled faster than fire. Within an hour, everyone in Seoul's business elite would know what happened. Talia turned toward the exit. She wanted fresh air. She wanted silence. She wanted a world that didn't contain Malcolm Reed. She made it halfway across the lobby before the tears finally arrived. Not dramatic tears. Not movie tears. Quiet ones. Exhausted ones. She pushed through the revolving doors and stepped into the cool night air. Seoul glittered around her. Traffic lights reflected across rain-soaked streets. The city continued moving as though her life hadn't just shattered. Funny how the world did that. Her phone vibrated. Then again. Malcolm. She blocked the number. Immediately. A second later, a new number appeared. Evelyn. Talia hesitated, then answered. Hello? Silence. Then Evelyn sighed. I owe you an apology. Talia leaned against the building wall. For what? For believing him. Her voice sounded tired, broken, human. I thought you were the ex who couldn't let go. Talia closed her eyes. Apparently neither of us knew him. Another silence. Strange and sad. Two women connected by the same betrayal. Take care of yourself, Talia. The call ended. Talia stared at the dark screen, then laughed softly. Tonight had become surreal. You should sit down. The voice appeared behind her, deep. Familiar. She turned. Jiwan stood a few feet away. No security, no entourage, just him. He held 2 paper coffee cups. Steam drifted upward into the cold night air. Talia blinked. Are you following me? No. He handed her a cup. My car is parked in the same direction. She accepted it carefully. The warmth immediately seeped into her fingers. Thank you. They stood in silence for several seconds. Not awkward silence, peaceful silence. Rare silence, the kind that asks for nothing. Talia stared at the city lights. Did you do it? Han Jiwan looked ahead. Do what? The screens. His expression didn't change. No. She studied him. He didn't look away, didn't become defensive, didn't over-explain. Just answered. Somehow she believed him. Then who did? Someone who disliked Malcolm more than you do. A laugh escaped her. Han Jiwan's mouth twitched slightly. Almost a smile. Almost. You find this funny? She asked. No. His gaze lowered toward her coffee cup. I find it interesting. What? He looked at her then. Really looked at her. Most people spend heartbreak trying to destroy the person who hurt them. Talia swallowed. And? You're worried about who exposed him. The observation caught her off guard, because it was true. Han Jiwan noticed things. Dangerous things. Small things. Important things. She suddenly understood why people feared him, not because he was rich, because he paid attention. Maybe I'm tired of destruction. His eyes softened slightly. Not enough for most people to notice. Enough for her to notice. Then his phone rang. He glanced down. The screen illuminated briefly. Talia accidentally saw the name. Director Kang. Han answered, listened. Said nothing for several seconds. Then his expression changed, just slightly. Are you sure? He asked quietly. Talia looked away, not wanting to eavesdrop. Han listened again. His gaze slowly returned to her face. Whatever he was hearing suddenly involved her. She felt it instantly. Understood, he said. The call ended. The city noise filled the silence between them. Talia frowned. What happened? Han Jiwan studied her for a long moment. Then he slipped his phone into his pocket. Miss Monroe. Something in his tone made her heart beat faster. Yes? His next words changed everything. Tomorrow morning your company is terminating your employment. Talia stared at him. The coffee cup nearly slipped from her hands. What? Han's expression remained calm, controlled, unreadable. And according to the report I just received, he paused. Your name is also being blamed for tonight's scandal. The blood drained from her face. Somewhere across the city, her phone suddenly began ringing again. Unknown number, over and over. And for the first time all night, Talia realized her nightmare wasn't ending. It was just beginning. Talia barely slept. She lay awake in her small apartment, listening to the distant sounds of Seoul drifting through the window, while her phone continued vibrating across the nightstand. Unknown numbers, former coworkers, reporters, people she hadn't spoken to in years. By 2 a.m, she switched the phone off entirely. By 4 a.m, she gave up, pretending she would sleep. By 6, she sat at her kitchen table wearing an oversized sweater and staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold. Everything felt unreal. 24 hours ago, she had a boyfriend, a career path, and a future she thought she understood. Now all three were gone. Her laptop chimed. An email notification. She already knew what it would say before opening it. The subject line confirmed it. Employment termination notice. Her chest tightened anyway. She opened the email slowly. The message was short, clinical, heartless. Due to recent events affecting company reputation, your employment has been terminated effective immediately. Talia stared at the screen. 3 years. 3 years of arriving early. 3 years of staying late. 3 years of covering responsibilities that technically belonged to other people. Gone in 3 sentences. Another email arrived seconds later, then another, then another. Her stomach dropped. Internal investigation. Public relations concern. Legal review. Someone was building a case against her. Someone wanted her blamed. She closed the laptop carefully. Very carefully, because she suddenly felt like throwing it across the room. A sharp knock sounded at her door. Talia frowned. Nobody visited this early. Another knock followed, then another. Reluctantly, she walked across the apartment and opened the door. A man stood outside wearing a dark suit. Behind him waited 2 more. Not police, not reporters, professional. Controlled, expensive. The lead man bowed slightly. Miss Monroe? Her pulse quickened. Yes. He handed her a black envelope. Chairman Han requested this be delivered personally. Talia blinked. Chairman Han? The man nodded once. Good morning. Then he left. Just like that. No explanation. No conversation. The 3 men disappeared down the hallway. Talia stared at the envelope in her hands. Heavy paper. Elegant. Minimal. Expensive. Everything about it felt deliberate. She returned to the kitchen table and opened it carefully. Inside sat a single invitation card. Black lettering, silver edges. Meet me, 9 a.m. Hanyul Group headquarters. Top floor, Han Jiwon. No explanation. No details. Just confidence. The confidence of a man accustomed to being obeyed. Talia looked at the clock. 8:15. She should ignore it. Any sensible person would ignore it. Yet 45 minutes later, she found herself standing inside the lobby of Hanyul Group Tower. The building looked less like an office and more like a monument. Glass, steel, wealth, power. Employees moved through the lobby with quiet efficiency. Nobody wasted motion. Nobody raised their voice. The receptionist smiled immediately when she approached. Miss Fro, Chairman Han is expecting you. Talia froze. Yes. The woman pressed a button. Private elevator doors opened instantly. Talia stepped inside. Her reflection stared back at her from mirrored walls. She looked tired, heartbroken, lost. The elevator climbed silently. Higher, higher, higher. By the time the doors opened, her stomach was twisting. The top floor felt strangely quiet. Massive windows overlooked the city. Sunlight spilled across polished floors. The receptionist upstairs directed her toward enormous double doors. Talia knocked once. Come in. The familiar voice drifted through. She entered. Han Jiwon's office was somehow even more intimidating than the building itself. Not because of luxury, because of simplicity. Nothing unnecessary, nothing excessive, everything intentional. Like the man himself, Han sat near the windows reviewing documents. He didn't immediately look up. For several seconds, only the sound of turning pages filled the room. Then he closed the file and raised his eyes. You came. Talia crossed her arms. You sent 3 men to my apartment. Something resembling amusement flickered across his face. Fair point. He gestured toward a chair. She sat. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. Oddly, she was beginning to notice that about him. Most powerful men filled silence because they feared it. Han seemed perfectly comfortable inside it. Finally, he slid a folder across the desk. What's this? She asked. Evidence. Her pulse quickened. Slowly she opened it. Inside were emails, internal communications, financial records. Her eyes widened. Malcolm's name appeared repeatedly. So did several executives from her former company. Talia kept reading, then stopped. This isn't possible. Han leaned back slightly. Unfortunately, it is. She looked up. They planned this months ago. Her stomach dropped. The room suddenly felt colder. She continued reading. Every page revealed something worse. Malcolm had recommended eliminating her department position long before the engagement scandal. He had quietly taken credit for projects she completed. He had redirected client praise toward himself. He had even blocked promotion opportunities she never knew existed. Talia stared at the papers, speechless. Memories began replaying inside her head. The promotion she almost received. The presentation Malcolm insisted on handling personally. The client who suddenly stopped responding. Tiny moments. Strange moments. Moments that now made sense. Her throat tightened. Why? The word came out barely audible. Han watched her carefully. Because you were better than he was. She looked away immediately. No, yes. His answer came without hesitation. The records are clear. Talia laughed bitterly. Then why didn't anyone notice? Han didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood and walked toward the windows overlooking Seoul. People notice. His reflection stared back from the glass. They simply choose what benefits them. The honesty stunned her, because it felt true, painfully true. After a long silence, she asked, "Why are you helping me?" Finally. The question she had been avoiding since the gala. Han turned slowly, his gaze settled on her, calm, steady, unreadable. Because someone should have. The answer landed harder than she expected. Because someone should have. Not because he wanted something. Not because he was attracted to her. Not because he needed anything. Just because someone should have. Talia looked down at the folder. Suddenly her vision blurred. She hated crying in front of people. Always had. Yet the tears arrived anyway, quietly, without permission. Han noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't rush to comfort her. Didn't move closer. Didn't tell her not to cry. He simply gave her space. The respect nearly broke her. "Nobody ever told me," she whispered. "Told you what?" A tear slipped down her cheek. "That I wasn't the problem." Silence filled the office, deep, heavy silence. Then Han spoke softly. "You weren't the problem." Talia closed her eyes. 4 years. 4 years waiting to hear that. 4 years wondering why she never said enough. 4 years shrinking herself to fit someone else's ambition. 4 years convincing herself that being chosen had to be earned. And now a man who barely knew her had said the thing Malcolm never could. "You weren't the problem." She wiped her face quickly. Embarrassed. "Sorry, don't apologize." The words came instantly, firmly. She looked up. Han was already watching her, not with pity, not with sympathy, with something far more dangerous, understanding. Then his desk phone rang. He answered, listened, said nothing. His expression gradually darkened. Talia's stomach tightened. She was beginning to recognize that look, trouble. Han ended the call. "What happened?" she asked. He looked at her for several seconds, measuring something, deciding something. Then he spoke. "The media just released a new story." Talia felt dread settle inside her chest. "About me?" Han nodded. "Yes." Her hands clenched. "What are they saying now?" He slid his tablet across the desk. Talia looked down, her blood turned to ice as the headline filled the screen. "Former employee accused of sabotaging billion-dollar engagement." Beneath it sat a photograph, not of Malcolm, not of Evelyn, of her. And according to the article, she wasn't just unemployed anymore, she was the villain. Talia stared at the screen in horror. Then she noticed something else. At the bottom of the article, a single quoted source. Anonymous executive. Her breathing stopped, because she recognized the wording immediately. She knew exactly who had given that statement. Malcolm. And suddenly the war she never wanted had officially begun. Talia stared at the article until the words began to blur together. Every sentence felt carefully engineered. Every paragraph pushed the same narrative. Bitter ex-girlfriend. Disgruntled employee. Jealous woman seeking revenge. By the time she reached the end, she felt physically sick. The comments were worse. Thousands of strangers discussing her life as if they knew her. As if they had lived inside her relationship. As if they had witnessed her sacrifices. She's obviously obsessed with him. Women like this are dangerous. He upgraded and she couldn't handle it. Classic bitter ex. Talia dropped the tablet onto the desk. Her hands trembled, not from anger, from exhaustion. She suddenly understood something terrifying. The truth didn't matter. Not to the internet. Not to gossip blogs. Not to people who wanted a story more than facts. Han Ji-won watched her quietly. "Don't read the comments," she laughed bitterly. Little late for that. His mouth twitched slightly. Almost another smile. Almost. The phone on his desk rang again. He ignored it. It rang a second time. Ignored a third. Ignored. Talia raised an eyebrow. "Important? Probably." "Shouldn't you answer?" "No." She blinked. "Why not?" Han looked directly at her. "I'm busy." The answer caught her off guard. Because she realized he meant it. One of the most powerful men in Seoul was ignoring calls because he was sitting here helping her. The realization made her strangely uncomfortable. She wasn't used to being prioritized. Not by anyone. Especially not by men. She stood. "You've already done enough." Han's gaze followed her. "Have I?" "Yes." She smiled weakly. "You don't owe me anything." Something unreadable crossed his face, then disappeared. Perhaps. The conversation ended there, yet somehow it didn't feel finished. Talia gathered her things and left the office. The elevator ride down felt longer than before. Her mind kept replaying everything. Malcolm. The article. The evidence. Han. Especially Han. There was something unsettling about him, not frightening, just different. He paid attention. Most people listened so they could respond. Han listened so he could understand. It was a dangerous quality. By noon, Talia found herself standing outside a small bakery tucked between 2 apartment buildings. The bell above the door jingled as she entered. Warm bread, fresh coffee, cinnamon, home. Before she could even speak, a woman behind the counter gasped, "Absolutely not." Talia sighed. "Hello to you too." The woman rushed around the counter and wrapped her arms around her immediately. "Look at your face, Mina." "No." Mina pulled back. "Look at your face." Talia laughed despite herself. Mina Okafor had been her best friend since university, loud, honest, dramatic, completely incapable of pretending things were fine when they weren't. She was also one of the few people in the world who could make Talia laugh. During a crisis, Mina grabbed her hand and pulled her toward a corner booth. Sit, Talia sat. Mina sat across from her, then folded her arms. Start talking, Talia did. Everything. Malcolm, Evelyn, the gala, the article, Han Ji-won, the evidence, the termination, the media attacks. All of it. Mina listened without interrupting, which was unusual. Very unusual. By the time Talia finished, Mina looked ready to commit several crimes. I hate him. Which one? Mina blinked. Excellent question. Talia laughed for the first time all day. A real laugh, Mina pointed immediately. There, do that again. What laugh? Talia rolled her eyes. Mina leaned forward. You know what makes me crazy? What? You still sound sad about losing Malcolm. Talia frowned. I am sad. No. Mina shook her head. You're sad about losing the person you thought he was. The words landed hard. Because they were true, Mina continued. The actual Malcolm sounds like a human lawsuit. Another laugh escaped. Mina pointed again. There it is. Then she became serious. Listen to me carefully. Talia did. You spent years making yourself smaller so somebody else could feel bigger. Her voice softened. That's not love. Talia looked away. The bakery suddenly felt too warm, too emotional, too honest. Mina reached across the table. Do you know what I remember most about university? Talia shook her head. You, me? You helping everyone. Mina smiled sadly. You stayed up all night tutoring students who weren't even your friends. Talia looked down. That was a long time ago. No. Mina squeezed her hand. That's who you are. Silence settled between them. It's comfortable silence. The kind only old friendships create. Then Mina suddenly narrowed her eyes, dangerously. Now let's discuss the billionaire. Talia groaned immediately. Mina. No. Mina sat straighter. Let's discuss him. There is nothing to discuss. Talia, Mina. One of the richest men in Korea personally delivered evidence proving your innocence. Yes. Ignored important calls while helping you. Apparently. Sent men to your apartment. That sounds worse when you say it like that. Mina leaned forward dramatically. Do you know what this sounds like? Talia already regretted asking. What? Mina whispered. A K-drama. Talia buried her face in her hands. Mina laughed so hard she nearly fell out of the booth. I'm serious. Please stop. The mysterious billionaire is already obsessed. He's not obsessed, Mina smirked. That's exactly what women say before episode 12. Talia threw a napkin at her. Mina dodged it. Both women laughed. For the first time since the gala, Talia felt something loosen inside her chest. The pain remained, but it wasn't suffocating anymore. Friendship had a strange way of making grief smaller. Their laughter gradually faded. Then Mina's expression changed. She was staring toward the bakery window. Talia. Something in her tone made Talia turn. Her smile disappeared instantly. Across the street stood a black luxury sedan, tinted windows, engine running, motionless. Watching Talia frowned. What? Mina pointed subtly. That car has been there for 20 minutes. Talia's stomach tightened. The driver's side door opened. A man stepped out, dark suit, earpiece, professional posture, not a random stranger, security. The man didn't approach, didn't enter the bakery. He simply stood beside the vehicle while speaking quietly into an earpiece. Mina slowly turned back toward her. Tell me that's not billionaire security. Talia swallowed, because she wasn't sure. Then the rear passenger window lowered slightly, just enough. A familiar profile became visible for a brief second. Strong jawline, dark hair, calm posture, Han Ji-won. Talia froze. The window immediately rose again. The car remained parked. Mina's eyes became enormous. Oh my God, stop. Oh my God, Mina. The billionaire is literally outside. Several customers turned toward their booth. Talia wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. Across the street, the sedan finally pulled away from the curb. Smoothly, quietly, gone. As if it had never been there, Mina stared after it. Then slowly turned back toward Talia. You are absolutely not surviving this story emotionally. Talia opened her mouth to argue. Her phone vibrated. Both women looked down. Unknown number. Talia hesitated before answering. Hello? Silence. Then a female voice spoke. Calm, elegant, familiar. Miss Monroe. Talia's blood ran cold. Evelyn March. Mina immediately sat straighter. Talia rose from the booth and moved away for privacy. What do you want? She asked carefully. Evelyn exhaled slowly. I need to meet you. Why? A long pause followed. Then Evelyn said something that made Talia's heart stop. Because Malcolm isn't the person either of us thought he was. Another pause. Heavier this time. Darker. Then Evelyn added, and I think he's about to do something dangerous. Talia spent the rest of the afternoon pretending she wasn't unsettled. It didn't work. Evelyn's warning kept replaying inside her head. Because Malcolm isn't the person either of us thought he was. And I think he's about to do something dangerous. Every time she tried to focus on something else, the words returned. By evening, she found herself standing beside the kitchen window of her apartment, staring at the city lights. The apartment felt different now. Smaller, quieter, lonelier. For years, she had spent most evenings talking to Malcolm, helping Malcolm, supporting Malcolm, planning around Malcolm. Now there was only silence. She should have felt empty. Instead, she felt something stranger. She felt angry. Not explosive anger, not revenge anger. The kind of anger that arrives after heartbreak. The kind that finally asks why. Why had she accepted so little? Why had she worked so hard to earn love that should have been freely given? Why had she spent years convincing herself she was asking for too much when all she wanted was respect? Her thoughts were interrupted by a message. Mina. Mina, before you start spiraling, answer one question. Talia smiled despite herself. She typed back, what? 3 dots appeared immediately. Mina. If your younger sister came to you crying because a man treated her exactly the way Malcolm treated you, what would you tell her? Talia stared at the screen. The answer arrived instantly. Leave him, Mina. Exactly. Talia looked away from the phone. Her chest tightened. Because she realized something. She had spent years giving herself advice she would never allow someone she loved to follow. Her phone buzzed again. Mina. Also, the billionaire is definitely obsessed. Talia groaned aloud. Another message arrived. Mina, you can't stop destiny. Talia immediately muted the conversation. The phone rang before she could put it down. Unknown number. Her stomach tightened. Slowly, she answered. Hello, Miss Monroe. Talia immediately recognized the voice. Director Kang. Good evening. Good evening. His tone remained professional. Controlled. Chairman Han would like to invite you to tomorrow night's foundation gala. Talia blinked. What? An official invitation will be delivered shortly. She frowned. I think there's a misunderstanding. There isn't. Why would Chairman Han invite me? Silence. Then Director Kang answered carefully. The chairman believes your presence would be beneficial. Beneficial. That sounded suspiciously like something a lawyer would say. Talia rubbed her forehead. I don't belong at billionaire galas. The chairman disagrees. Before she could argue further, the call ended. Talia stared at the phone. Minutes later, her doorbell rang. She opened the door to find another elegantly dressed courier holding a black envelope. The invitation inside looked impossibly expensive. Hanul Foundation Annual Charity Gala, guest of Chairman Han Jawan. Talia sat on her couch staring at it. Guest of Chairman Han Jawan. The words felt unreal. Across the city, Han Jawan sat alone inside a private conference room reviewing reports. Most people assumed wealth made life simpler. In reality, it made information endless. Markets, acquisitions, negotiations, risks, numbers. Hundreds of pages crossed his desk daily. Yet tonight his attention drifted repeatedly toward a completely different file. Talia Monroe. Director Kang entered carrying another folder. The investigator has been identified. Han looked up immediately. Director Kang placed photographs on the table. Former police officer. Han's eyes narrowed slightly. Who hired him? Director Kang opened the file. Malcolm Reed. Silence, cold silence. The kind that changed room temperature. Han studied the photographs carefully. Continue surveillance. Director Kang nodded. There is something else. Han waited. Director Kang rarely added unnecessary details. We recovered several messages. He slid another document forward. Han read silently. His expression remained calm, but the air around him changed. Malcolm's messages were becoming increasingly unstable, increasingly desperate, increasingly obsessive. Multiple unanswered calls. Multiple attempts to contact Talia through mutual acquaintances. Requests for her location. Questions about who she was spending time with. Questions about Han himself. Director Kang broke the silence. He's becoming fixated. Han closed the folder. I noticed. Director Kang hesitated. Then carefully asked, should we increase security? Han looked toward the city lights beyond the glass windows. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he answered, yes. Meanwhile, Malcolm Reed sat alone inside his luxury apartment staring at his phone. The city skyline glowed behind him. Half-empty whiskey glasses covered the table. His tie hung loose around his neck. Evelyn had left him. Charles March had cut all negotiations. Investors had stopped answering calls. Business partners were distancing themselves. Everything he spent years building was collapsing. And somehow all he could think about was Talia. He opened her social media profile again. Nothing new, no posts, no updates, no public statements. The silence infuriated him. He wanted anger. He wanted accusations. He wanted tears. Instead, she disappeared. Worse, she seemed to be moving on. Malcolm opened another photograph. This one taken outside the bakery. Talia laughing, smiling, looking lighter than she had looked in months. Across from her sat Mina. But that wasn't what captured Malcolm's attention. Parked across the street sat a black luxury sedan. Haniel Group security vehicle. Malcolm zoomed in. His jaw tightened. Han Jiwan's. Somehow Han Jiwan had become involved. The thought made him physically ill. Malcolm stood abruptly. The whiskey glass shattered against the wall. Why him? He muttered. His breathing grew heavier, faster, irrational. Because deep down he already knew the answer. Talia was the kind of woman powerful men noticed eventually. Malcolm had simply been too selfish to appreciate her while he had her. Across town, Talia stood before her bedroom mirror preparing for the gala. She almost didn't go. 3 separate times she considered canceling. Yet something kept stopping her. Maybe curiosity, maybe pride, maybe the simple fact that she refused to hide anymore. The dress she finally chose was elegant but understated. Deep emerald green, soft fabric, no dramatic embellishments, no attempt to impress anyone, just herself. Looking into the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Not because she looked different, because she looked stronger. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Mina. Mina, remember, if the billionaire falls in love tomorrow, act surprised. Talia laughed. Mina. Not too surprised, though. Talia shook her head and grabbed her purse. Outside her apartment building, a black luxury vehicle waited at the curb. A driver stepped out immediately. Miss Monroe. She hesitated, then entered. The drive across Seoul felt strangely quiet. The city glittered beneath the night sky. Beautiful, endless, full of possibilities she had forgotten existed. Eventually, the vehicle turned toward one of the most prestigious hotels in Korea. Light poured from the entrance. Cameras flashed outside. Luxury cars lined the street. Talia's pulse quickened. The driver opened her door. She stepped out. Instantly, dozens of eyes turned toward her. She froze, not because of the cameras, because standing near the entrance was Han Ji-won, waiting. Not inside, not already attending, waiting. Specifically for her. The realization hit unexpectedly hard. Han's dark gaze found hers immediately. For a brief moment, the noise around them disappeared. He crossed the distance between them calmly, confidently, effortlessly, then stopped directly in front of her. His eyes lingered for half a second. Not on her body, not on the dress, on her face. As if checking something. As if making sure she was okay. You came, he said quietly. Talia swallowed apparently. Something flickered behind his eyes, approval perhaps. Then his arm extended toward her. A simple invitation, nothing more. Yet her heartbeat betrayed her immediately. Slowly she placed her hand against his arm. The contact lasted only a second. But somehow it felt longer. Together they turned toward the entrance. Camera flashes exploded around them. Reporters began shouting questions. Guests stared openly. Whispers spread instantly through the crowd. And standing near the far side of the entrance, hidden among arriving guests, Malcolm Reed watched the entire thing happen. The expression on his face was no longer heartbreak. It was jealousy. Raw, dangerous, uncontrolled jealousy. And for the first time all night, Han Ji-won's gaze shifted past Talia and landed directly on Malcolm. The two men locked eyes across the crowd. Neither smiled. Neither looked away. And suddenly Talia had the terrifying feeling that something far bigger than a broken relationship had just begun. The moment Han Ji-won and Malcolm Reed locked eyes across the entrance, Talia felt the atmosphere change. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't notice it. But she did. Malcolm looked like a man watching someone else walk away with something he had carelessly thrown aside. Han looked exactly the same as always. Calm, controlled, unreadable. Somehow that made him infinitely more intimidating. Camera flashes exploded around them. Reporters shouted questions. Guests whispered openly. Talia could practically feel rumors being born in real time. Is that Talia Monroe? What's she doing with Chairman Han? Are they together? Since when? Han leaned slightly toward her. His voice remained calm. Ignore them. Talia looked up. Easy for you to say. Something resembling amusement touched his eyes. No. His gaze shifted briefly toward the crowd. I've spent 20 years learning how. Before she could answer, the ballroom doors opened. The annual Haniel Foundation Gala unfolded before them in a wash of crystal light and luxury. Massive chandeliers glowed overhead. Live musicians played near a marble staircase. Seoul's most powerful figures filled the room: CEOs, politicians, investors, celebrities, people who moved markets with phone calls. Yet the moment Han entered with Talia beside him, conversations paused. Eyes followed them. Not because of him. People expected Han Ji-won to command attention. They were looking at her. Talia felt the pressure immediately. The old version of herself would have shrunk beneath it. Tonight she refused. She lifted her chin slightly and kept walking. Beside her, Han noticed. He noticed everything. You're nervous. She glanced at him. Very observant. You hide it well. Years of practice. The answer slipped out before she could stop it. Han's expression changed slightly. Not pity. Understanding again. That dangerous understanding. They continued walking through the ballroom. Several executives approached Han. Greetings, handshakes, introductions. Throughout every conversation, Han never once abandoned her. Never left her standing alone. Never forgot she was there. The realization slowly unsettled her. Because Malcolm always had. Every event, every gala, every corporate function. Talia had spent years smiling politely while Malcolm disappeared into conversations that benefited him. Han never did. Even when speaking to billionaires, his awareness remained partly fixed on her. Chairman Han. An older investor smiled warmly. And who is this? Talia prepared herself for the awkward pause. The uncertainty, the hesitation, the explanation never came. Talia Monroe. Han's answer was immediate, effortless, certain. Someone I respect. The investor nodded politely. The conversation continued. Yet Talia barely heard another word. Someone I respect. Such a simple sentence. Such a devastating sentence. Because she realized Malcolm had never introduced her that way. Not once. An hour later, the gala was in full swing. Talia finally found herself standing alone near a balcony overlooking the city. Fresh air, silence, distance. Exactly what she needed. Seoul sparkled beneath the night sky. Beautiful and endless. There you are. Talia closed her eyes. She recognized the voice instantly. Malcolm. Of course, she turned slowly. Malcolm stood a few feet away. His suit was immaculate. His expression wasn't. He looked exhausted, frustrated, desperate, dangerous combinations. What do you want? She asked quietly. Malcolm laughed without humor. That's really how you're going to greet me? You accused me of destroying your life. You did. Talia stared at him. No, Malcolm. Her voice remained calm. You did that yourself. For a moment, neither spoke. The city lights reflected behind them. Somewhere inside the ballroom, music continued playing. Yet this small corner of the world felt isolated. Separate. Malcolm stepped closer. How long? Talia frowned. You and him. Understanding flashed instantly. She almost laughed. There is no me and him. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Don't lie to me. I'm not. Then why is he doing all this? Talia looked at him carefully. Really looked at him. For years she had mistaken ambition for confidence, arrogance for strength, control for leadership. Tonight she finally saw him clearly, and somehow he seemed smaller. Maybe because he's a decent person. Malcolm flinched. The reaction was almost invisible. Almost. Then his expression hardened. You always did that. Did what? Made other people look like heroes. Talia blinked. What? Malcolm ran a hand through his hair. Frustration radiated from him. You don't even realize it. His voice lowered. You make people feel important. The statement surprised her. Not because it was romantic. Because it sounded honest. Maybe for the first time all evening. Malcolm laughed bitterly. Do you know how many times investors remembered your name after meetings? Talia frowned. What are you talking about? You listened. He looked away. You remembered details. Silence. You made people feel seen. The confession hung between them. Strange, unexpected, painful. Because for a moment she glimpsed the truth. Malcolm had noticed her value all along. He simply valued his ambition more. Then why wasn't I enough? The question escaped before she could stop it. Malcolm froze. The silence that followed felt endless. Finally he answered. Because I thought there would always be time. Talia's heart twisted. Not from love. From sadness. Genuine sadness. Some people didn't lose what mattered because they were evil. They lost it because they were careless. Malcolm stepped closer again. Talia. His voice softened. We can fix this. She stared at him, then laughed. Not cruelly, sadly. No, you don't mean that. I do. You're emotional. No, Malcolm. She shook her head gently. For the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. The words hit him like a physical blow. Talia saw it happen. Before either could speak again, a familiar voice interrupted. Am I interrupting? Han Juan stood near the balcony entrance. Calm, polite. Yet somehow the temperature dropped several degrees. Malcolm immediately stiffened. Han's gaze moved briefly between them, assessing, understanding, calculating. Talia noticed something then, something she hadn't noticed before. Han wasn't angry, he was concerned. The distinction mattered. Malcolm noticed it too. His expression darkened instantly. We're having a private conversation. Han nodded slightly. We're. Silence, tension tightened. Neither man moved, neither looked away. Talia suddenly felt like she was standing between two completely different worlds. One represented her past. The other represented a future she couldn't yet understand. Malcolm finally laughed bitterly. Of course. He looked directly at Han. You always get what you want, don't you? Han's expression never changed. No. The answer came immediately. I simply don't take things for granted. The words landed with surgical precision. Malcolm's face drained of color, because he understood exactly what Han meant. Talia understood too. Malcolm left seconds later. No dramatic exit, no final argument, just defeat. The moment he disappeared into the crowd, Talia exhaled slowly. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath. Han remained beside her. Neither spoke. The city lights glittered below. Finally, Talia looked up. Thank you. Han's gaze settled on her. For what? Showing up. Something shifted behind his eyes, briefly, dangerously. Then he looked away toward the skyline. You shouldn't have been alone with him. Talia frowned. Why? Han was silent for several seconds. Long enough to make her nervous. Then he answered quietly. Because he's becoming unpredictable. The seriousness in his voice immediately erased her curiosity. What do you mean? Han reached into his jacket and removed a folded document. He handed it to her. Talia unfolded it carefully. Her stomach dropped. Private investigator reports, surveillance photographs, records of Malcolm tracking her movements, her apartment, the bakery, multiple locations, multiple dates. The blood drained from her face. What is this? She whispered. Han watched her carefully. The reason I increased your security. Talia looked up sharply. My what? Another silence. Then Han answered. The reason my team has been watching you. Shock, confusion, fear, all collided at once. Then Han spoke again, calmly, steadily. Because 3 days ago Malcolm hired someone to follow you. The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. And before she could fully process that revelation, Director Kang suddenly appeared at the balcony entrance. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked genuinely alarmed. Chairman. Han immediately turned. Director Kang lowered his voice. We have a problem. Every instinct inside Talia tightened. Han's expression sharpened. What happened? Director Kang glanced toward her briefly, then back at Han. Someone just leaked security footage from Miss Monroe's apartment building. Silence. Dead silence. Then Director Kang delivered the final blow. It's already gone viral. The color drained from Talia's face. For a moment she simply stared at Director Kang. Viral. The word echoed inside her head. Viral meant millions of people. Viral meant strangers. Viral meant another version of her life being dragged into public without permission. Han took the phone Director Kang handed him. His expression remained calm as he reviewed the footage. Talia hated how quickly she had learned to read him, because she noticed it immediately. The slight tightening of his jaw, the faint hardening in his eyes. Whatever was on that screen was bad, let me see it. Han looked at her, hesitated, then handed over the phone. Talia's stomach dropped. The footage showed her apartment entrance from 2 nights earlier. She watched herself return home carrying groceries. Seconds later, another figure appeared in frame, Malcolm, standing across the street, watching, waiting. The footage continued. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Malcolm never approached the building, never knocked, never left. He simply stood there staring toward her apartment. The comments beneath the video were exploding. Some defended her, others attacked her, others treated the situation like entertainment. But one thing was becoming clear. Public opinion was beginning to shift. People were asking questions. Difficult questions. Why was Malcolm outside her building? Why was he monitoring her? Why was the woman being portrayed as the villain suddenly looking like the victim? Talia slowly lowered the phone. He was there for 30 minutes. Director Kang nodded. 42. The correction made it worse. Han took the phone back. The footage is being removed. Too late, Director Kang said quietly. Millions have already seen it. Talia looked away toward the city lights. Everything felt exhausting. Every day brought another battle, another headline, another humiliation, another revelation. She suddenly felt tired down to her bones. The gala continued behind them. Music, laughter, champagne, wealth. Yet standing on that balcony felt strangely isolated, like they were observing a different world entirely. Han studied her face. What are you thinking? Talia laughed softly. That I miss being anonymous. Something shifted behind his eyes. Understanding again. Always understanding. Fame is overrated. She looked at him. You would know. For the first time that evening, an actual smile appeared. Small, brief, dangerous. It changed his entire face. Talia forgot what she was about to say. The realization annoyed her immediately. Han noticed. Of course he noticed. The smile disappeared. But not before she saw it. What? He asked. Nothing. That's a lie. She looked away quickly. I forgot my thought. The corner of his mouth moved again, barely. Director Kang suddenly cleared his throat, loudly, deliberately. Talia immediately remembered he was standing there. Director Kang looked toward the ballroom. You may want to come inside. Han's expression sharpened. Why? Because Malcolm appears to be making another poor decision. They entered the ballroom just in time to see it happen. Malcolm stood near the center of the room surrounded by executives, investors, and journalists. His face was flushed, his movements slightly unsteady. Alcohol. Too much alcohol. Talia felt dread immediately. Malcolm spotted her the moment she entered. Then he spotted Han beside her. The combination proved catastrophic. There she is. The room fell silent. Talia stopped walking. Malcolm laughed bitterly. Everyone wants to know the truth, right? Several guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Han remained completely still. Malcolm pointed directly at Talia. Ask her how many years she spent pretending she didn't want more. Talia closed her eyes briefly. Not this, please not this, Malcolm continued. Ask her how many opportunities she gave up for me. The room became painfully quiet. Ask her how many nights she stayed awake helping me build my company. Confusion spread across several faces. This wasn't the speech they expected. Neither was Talia. Malcolm laughed again. The sound hurt, because nobody wants to talk about that part. His voice cracked slightly. Nobody wants to talk about how she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Silence, absolute silence. Talia felt her heartbeat quicken. Malcolm looked directly at her. You want the truth? His eyes became glassy, vulnerable, broken. I loved you. The confession landed like an explosion. Gasps spread through the crowd. Talia froze. Malcolm shook his head. No, his voice trembled. I did love you. Another bitter laugh escaped him. I was just stupid enough to think you would always be there. The ballroom stood motionless. Every person watching, listening, witnessing. Talia felt tears threatening again, not because she wanted him back, because tragedy always carried sadness, even when deserved. Malcolm took a step toward her. Security immediately moved. Han raised one hand. The guards stopped. Malcolm wasn't dangerous. Not yet, just broken Talia. His voice softened. Come home. The words shattered something inside the room, because everyone understood what they meant. Regret, desperation, loss. Talia stared at him. 4 years of memories flashed through her mind. The good moments, the bad moments, the sacrifices, the disappointments, the dreams. Then she finally answered. I was never home to you, Malcolm. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Malcolm physically flinched. Talia continued, her voice calm, steady, certain. I was convenience. Silence, I was support. Another silence, I was backup. Tears filled Malcolm's eyes. Talia's voice softened. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The truth settled over the ballroom like snowfall. Slow, quiet, unavoidable. Malcolm looked down, completely defeated. And for the first time since the gala disaster, Talia felt free, truly free. Then something unexpected happened. Applause. One person. Then another. Then another. Guests throughout the ballroom began applauding. Not loudly, respectfully, supportively. The sound grew. Talia blinked in shock. People weren't applauding drama. They were applauding dignity, applauding survival, applauding a woman finally choosing herself. Across the room, Malcolm quietly left. Nobody stopped him, nobody followed him. The chapter of her life called Malcolm Reed ended, not with revenge but with consequence. Gradually the gala resumed. Conversations returned, music returned, life continued. Yet something fundamental had shifted. Hours later, the event finally began winding down. Guests departed. Executives exchanged final conversations. Staff started clearing. Talia stepped onto the balcony once more, seeking quiet. The night air felt cooler now, cleaner somehow. She heard footsteps behind her. She already knew who it was. Han stopped beside her. Neither spoke for several moments. The city glowed beneath them, endless lights stretching toward the horizon. Finally, Talia laughed softly. This has been the strangest week of my life. Only a week? Han asked. She smiled. Fair point. Comfortable silence, dangerous silence. The kind becoming increasingly common between them. Then Han spoke, quietly. You're different tonight. Talia looked up. How? His gaze remained on the skyline, lighter. The observation surprised her because it was true. She felt lighter, not healed, not completely, but lighter. Maybe because I finally stopped carrying someone who refused to carry me. Han turned toward her slowly. Their eyes met. The distance between them suddenly felt very small, very noticeable. Talia's heartbeat betrayed her immediately. Han seemed completely unaffected. Until she noticed something. His attention wasn't on the city anymore. It was on her, entirely on her. The realization made her breath catch. Neither looked away. Seconds stretched, the air shifted. Something unspoken moved between them, something neither could pretend not to feel anymore. Then Han's phone rang. The moment shattered instantly. Han answered, listened. His expression changed, not dramatically, just enough. Talia immediately knew something was wrong. He ended the call. What happened? She asked. Han looked at her for several seconds, longer than normal. Then he spoke. Malcolm was just involved in an accident. Talia's heart stopped. Is he okay? Han's gaze remained fixed on hers. Yes. Relief flooded her instantly. Then Han continued. But before the accident, his voice lowered, he sent a message. Talia frowned. To who? Han reached into his pocket and handed her his phone. Talia looked down. The message sat open on the screen. Sent from Malcolm's number 23 minutes earlier. Her blood turned cold as she read it. Because the message contained only 6 words. 6 words directed at Han Jiwon. 6 words that changed everything. Take care of her for me. Talia stared at the message for a long time. Take care of her for me. 6 words. That was all. Yet somehow they carried the weight of an ending. The weight of surrender. The weight of a man finally understanding what he had lost. Slowly, she handed the phone back to Han. Neither spoke immediately. The city lights shimmered beneath them. Somewhere below, traffic moved through Seoul's endless arteries. Life continued. It always did. Even after heartbreak, even after regret, even after love arrived too late. Do you believe him? Talia asked quietly. Han slipped the phone back into his pocket. About what? About finally understanding. Han was silent for several moments. Then he answered honestly. Yes. Talia looked away toward the skyline. Surprisingly, the answer didn't bring satisfaction. It brought sadness. Because Malcolm finally understood. But understanding arrived after damage, after choices, after consequences. Some lessons cost too much. The cool night breeze brushed against her skin. For the first time in weeks, her chest didn't hurt. The ache was still there somewhere, deep inside. But it no longer controlled her. Han studied her profile quietly. What are you thinking? She laughed softly. You ask that question a lot. You think a lot. Another small laugh escaped her. Then her expression softened. I'm thinking about how strange life is. Han waited. A month ago, I thought I knew exactly what my future looked like. Her eyes drifted toward the stars, barely visible above the city. Now I realize I never actually belonged in that future. Silence. Then Han asked, and now? Talia thought carefully before answering. Now I don't know. Something warm settled between them. Not uncertainty. Possibility. For the first time in years, possibility. The gala finally ended shortly after midnight. Guests departed one by one. Luxury cars disappeared into the city. Staff began dismantling decorations. The magical atmosphere slowly dissolved back into reality. Han walked Talia toward the waiting vehicle outside. Camera crews had mostly gone home. The entrance felt quieter now, more intimate, more honest. The driver opened the rear door. Talia paused before entering. Thank you. Han looked at her. For what? She smiled. You asked that question a lot too. Something flickered behind his eyes, she continued. For helping me when you didn't have to. Han remained silent. For believing me. Another silence. For seeing me. This time something genuinely changed in his expression. Not dramatically, but enough. Enough for her to notice. Enough for her heart to react. Neither moved. Neither looked away. The city seemed quieter somehow. As though even Seoul understood this moment mattered. Finally Han spoke. You make that difficult. Talia blinked. What? Not seeing you. Her breath caught. Han immediately looked away toward the street. As if he hadn't intended to say it aloud. As if the words had escaped. Yet they hung between them now. Real. Irreversible. Talia's heartbeat accelerated. Chairman Han. She stopped. What? His gaze returned to hers, steady. Certain. Call me Jiwon. Nobody had ever heard him ask that so quickly. Not employees, not investors, not executives, not journalists. Yet the request felt strangely natural. Talia swallowed Jiwon. Something softened in his eyes immediately. The reaction lasted only a second. But it was there. Real, unmistakable. Then the moment ended. She entered the vehicle. The door closed. The car pulled away. Yet neither stopped watching until distance finally separated them. 3 days later, Souls exploded. Not because of another scandal. Because of the truth. The investigation into Malcolm's company became public. Internal records surfaced. Manipulations, financial misconduct, false statements, everything. One by one, the lies collapsed. The media narrative changed completely. Talia Monroe was officially cleared of all accusations. Public sympathy shifted overnight. Interviews arrived. Opportunities arrived. Job offers arrived. More importantly, peace arrived. For the first time in years, nobody expected her to carry their weight. Meanwhile, Han watched everything from a distance. He never interfered, never inserted himself, never demanded attention, which somehow made his presence impossible to ignore. Every morning, fresh flowers arrived at her apartment. No notes, no messages, no pressure. Just flowers. Different every day. White roses, peonies, orchids, lilies. Thoughtful, elegant, understated, exactly like him. Mina nearly lost her mind. He's courting you. Talia laughed. He's sending flowers. That's billionaire courtship. That's not a thing. It absolutely is. 2 weeks later, Mina dragged Talia to a charity auction. I hate you, Talia informed her while adjusting her dress. You love me, I tolerate you, same thing. The ballroom was crowded, elegant, familiar. Yet this time Talia felt different walking inside. Stronger. She wasn't here as someone's girlfriend, someone's employee, someone's shadow. She was here as herself. The realization felt wonderful. Halfway through the evening, she stepped onto a quiet terrace overlooking the city. Some habits never changed. She still preferred fresh air to crowded rooms. You always find balconies. The deep voice behind her instantly produced a smile. She turned. Han stood there, dark suit, calm eyes, effortless presence, dangerous man, and you always find me. The words slipped out before she could stop them. For a second, neither moved, then something unexpected happened. Han smiled, fully, not a rare almost smile, a real one, warm, genuine, beautiful. Talia forgot how to breathe. Han noticed immediately. His smile widened slightly. Interesting. What? She asked. You notice things. Her stomach flipped. Is that a compliment? Yes. Silence settled between them. Comfortable, familiar, intimate. The city glowed beneath the night sky. Finally, Han stepped closer, not enough to overwhelm, just enough to matter. Talia. Her pulse quickened instantly. Yes? His gaze held hers completely. No distractions, no masks, no distance, just honesty. The same honesty that had slowly pulled them together over weeks of conversations, observations, silences, and trust. Do you remember the first time we met? She laughed softly. Unfortunately, you kissed me. Talia immediately covered her face. Please don't remind me. I remember something. She peeked through her fingers. What? Han's expression softened. You were trying to make someone jealous. Mortification flooded her instantly. Can we skip this conversation? No. His voice remained calm, steady, certain. Because I realized something later. Talia's heart began pounding. What? The city lights reflected in his eyes. It worked. Silence, complete silence. Then realization struck. Her breath caught. Han took another small step forward. Close enough now. Close enough for the moment to become undeniable. Not the person you intended. Her heart was absolutely out of control. Jiwon, his gaze never left hers. You became the first thing I looked for in every room. The world disappeared. The city, the noise, the distance. Everything. You became the person I wanted to protect. Her eyes filled unexpectedly. You became the person I wanted to understand. A tear slipped down her cheek. Han reached up slowly and brushed it away. The gesture was gentle, careful, reverent, like something precious. And somewhere along the way, he said quietly, I stopped looking forward to meetings. Talia laughed through tears. That's serious. Another smile appeared. Very serious. Their foreheads nearly touched now. Neither moved away. Neither wanted to. You don't have to make yourself smaller anymore, Talia. The words shattered whatever remained of her defenses. Because they touched the deepest wound Malcolm had left behind. The years of shrinking. The years of apologizing for existing. The years of earning affection. Tears filled her eyes completely. Han's voice softened. You never did. Really looked at him. The man who noticed everything. The man who expected nothing. The man who chose her without asking her to become someone else first. Then she smiled. A real smile. The kind that comes after surviving. Kind that comes after healing begins. Good. Han's eyebrows lifted slightly. Good? Talia wrapped her arms around his neck. Because I was getting tired of shrinking. And this time when she kissed him, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't about survival. It was about choice. The city lights glittered around them as Seoul stretched endlessly into the distance. Somewhere behind them life continued. Cars moved. Buildings glowed. People chased dreams. But for one perfect moment, none of it mattered. Because the woman who spent years begging to be chosen had finally chosen herself. And somehow, in the process, she found a man who had already chosen her too.